Is yeah, perfect. All right, that's great. So let me just start screen sharing. I hope you guys can see the screen now. Excellent. Yep. So it's out there. So we're going to be looking for questions related to chapter number 5. We will be going slowly, and I hope we do around like 6, 7 questions because we do have time. We started at exactly 9. The classes are gonna is gonna go till like 10 p.m. So we do have a proper 1 hour time session, and inshallah during this time we can easily do like 6, 7 questions. Eh? So we almost did this whole paper. Like to be honest, we are done with. We're just left with like 2 questions. Let's see if we have a chapter number 5 question. No, this is chapter 6. Web page. Okay, yeah, this might be up there, and this. Yes, 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 yes. This is chapter number 5. See, so we're going to be starting off with this first concept, which is basically, all right. So let's start off. See, so in this question, the examiner is saying that firstly they're saying that there is like some sort of an hospital where patients they are basically using a web page to log into their account to pay for the treatment they have received in the hospital. The patient enters the URL, so you are entering the website address, okay, for the web page into their browser, and the web page is requested and displayed. And we just need to complete and annotate the diagram to show how the web page is requested for patient. See, so we just need to explain how this whole mechanism of a web page is brought up onto your screen all the way from the servers. So chapter number 5, by the way, discusses concepts related to how your computers are available and can be accessed over the internet. So it's going to discuss everything all the way from your world wide web to internet to web pages to web browsers. And it's going to go towards how viruses, malware, and all sort of hacking thingies can attack you, how you can stay protected. And towards the end, it sort of like just gives the whole summary of the same thing, but it's mostly discussing security concepts. Eh? So now this one is basically one of the initial topics where they're saying that definitely you tell me one thing, you type in www.google.com, right? But it's not like your Google browser or whatever browser you're using, they automatically know that you're trying to access this specific website. There's a whole database existing at the back. So what happens is that your computer is up here, your computer sends a request to a database. Okay, so there is this center, which let's give it the name of DB database, and it's going to see that okay, this person typed in google.com. So in reality these domains are not like google.com or facebook.com or instagram.com. Perhaps it's something like 192.10.019 or 108.762.456 or maybe 9000.543.178.2. So when we have these sort of addresses, the problem is that memorizing them is pretty difficult, right? So what happened was programmers decided on introducing a database where basically they defined that if someone searches up google.com, this basically means that this person is trying to access 182.162 or whatever the address is, right? So what the program browser does is it goes and it sends your request to the database. So your request goes to the database, it checks, okay, this person typed in google.com, okay, perfect. And then they see whether this person inputted address, is this valid, or like can I find it in my database, yes or no? If it does, like in this scenario we get this address, so it's going to return this address to the computer, and so now this computer now has the actual address. So like this is your actual address, and now it can establish the communication, right? So remember, like post 2023, a lot of questions are being tested about diagrams. So I have this one whole document which covers up all the key important documents, diagrams, sorry. So you guys can just send me a message after the class and I can send that in the group. And just like that, any resource, any such valuable resource which is something which can help you guys can reach out to me and I can share that in the group. Say, so now in this question, they have clearly mentioned the first part for us where they're saying that there's a patient's computer, okay, and the URL is basically inputted into the patient's computer. Just a minute, sorry guys, sorry for the disturbance, sorry. Never mind. So we have a patient computer, and this is the computer where you're trying to input the URL. So www.google.com comes up here, right? We just need to now continue the thing. And just like that, what happens is that we, in reality, I just gave the name database to that specific center. But when you're studying the chapter, you're going to see that the name of that specific database is DNS. Okay, so it's known as DNS. Now so first of all establish a communication with your DNS. So you make a DNS like this, you make a Y towards this, an arrow indicating that request is being sent up there. And then also if let's say a request is being received, it's also like confirmed, like I found the relevant address of whatever google.com is, it's going to come back. So it's going to be something like URL is going there, and then your relevant IP address of that specific website, it's going to go back to the computer. But now, what if I tell you that there is a possibility that in the original database, which I was originally viewing, it did not have google.com in its own whole database, right? Like in all the set. So now what's going to happen? Will it return some sort of error? No, it's not going to return an error. Perhaps what it's going to do is it's going to see, okay, I do not have this data. Let me see the nearby other DNS, domain name server. So DNS stands for domain name server. Okay. So it's going to look for another DNS in the surrounding and it's going to see, okay, let me confirm whether it's with him, yes or no. If it is, then I can get the data from him. I can save it in mine and then I could return it to the patient's computer. So the whole mechanism works in a way that if let's say it's not found, we also have an alternate DNS2 up here too, which is basically only if, for instance, a specific URL was not located in DNS number 1. And so if it's found in DNS number 2, the DNS number 2 data goes back to DNS number 1 data. And this is only if URL not found. Say, so it's important you write this alongside it to explain the code. So if URL not found, then send to another DNS. Okay, another DNS. And now once done with this, now your computer basically has the correct IP address, right? But it says that how the web page is requested. So this means that we need to explain the whole way in a method that we need to also explain how we're going to go to that address and we're going to get the web page data. So now once you have the address, what's going to happen is that you will be going on to the specific web server. So you're going to send a request to the web server, which address has been given to us through the DNS. And then once we're on web server, it's going to download the data onto a computer, then we can access it. So the second part of this diagram is that we're going to make a web server up here, web server, and then you're just going to make a specific route like this onto which you're going to be writing request. Okay, so you're creating a request, and then again just like that an arrow is going to go back indicating that now you are downloading the web page data. So web page data, and this will get you a perfect 6 on 6, right? So it's important that you memorize such diagrams. This is like literally very important. So if you're preparing for computer science, do make sure that when you're reading the book, you always focus on these diagrams, because these diagrams can be tested anywhere on your exam and it can literally either make your grade or can break your grade. Because you see, it's like an easy 6-marker question, but if someone is not aware of the concept or maybe how it's implemented the right way, you might mess it up. And so if you mess this up, you're just going to lose some easy 6 marks, which I don't want you guys to miss upon. Continuing, the second part says that a patient is now making a payment to a secure connection. Okay, and that connection is created using the SSL protocol, secure socket layer protocol. Explain how a secure connection is created using the SSL protocol. So what happens is that if you're trying to send some data, you can secure it through some internet protocols. A protocol is like a set of rules. So like we sort of follow a set of rules which allows our data to be protected while being transferred. DNS is domain name server, DNS, right? So now when we have such set of rules, we're going to implement it in a way that now originally there was one other set of rules mentioned in your course too, but while revising the whole thing, like for 2023 onwards, I realized that it's no longer tested. So you just should be aware of what SSL is. And still I would recommend go through the book, and at the end of the chapter you're going to see that there is another part also mentioned, which if you want to read, it's good, you should go for it. But at least for SSL, you should be fully aware of what SSL is. So in this, you're going to say that originally what happens is that an encryption, that a connection is established. So like if I want to send data from PCA to PCB, I'm going to be encrypting the data. So I won't be sending the actual message. Perhaps I'm going to encrypt it, which basically means that I will be scrambling the data through a set algorithm. Okay, so I'm going to be using a specific algorithm to encrypt the data to ensure that the data is meaningless, right? So the person can, even if it's hacked, the person cannot make any sense of it, right? And then let's say when it reaches the person's computer, if you want to like the moment you want to request it from a specific web browser, the web browser is basically going to give you, or the web server are going to ask the web server to identify itself. So like for instance, I'm like, okay, I want to download some data from website number B to my computer. Okay, it's going to happen is that when it comes to my PC, definitely I'm downloading it through some browser, right? So the browser will be, bro, stop. I'm your security guard. Just a minute. Identify yourself before moving on. So how will the person identify himself? For this, what happens is that there is a digital certificate which exists, and that digital certificate is then authenticated by the web browser. And if it's authenticated, then the connection is established and the transaction can begin. But if it's not authenticated, then this means that the connection is not secure. And usually if you sometimes go and like explore the web browsers, you can see if there is a padlock existing at the top left. This means that the connection has been established, which means that the digital certificate has been authenticated. But if it's not there, this means it's not authenticated and it's not safe. Now we just need to write the whole process just like the way I mentioned in a 6-mark answer structure. So first of all, we're going to be saying firstly we're going to be talking about how encryption is established, right? So we're going to say that firstly, encryption will be established using an algorithm. Okay, or like you can also specify what type of encryption. So you can also say that encryption will be established using an asymmetric encryption method. Asymmetric encryption method. This will allow the data to be meaningless, data to become meaningless to any person who hacks the transaction. Meaningless as to any person, or to perhaps to any user. A user might be a better word. Say to any user hacking the transaction. Now you're done with half of the part. Now, once you're done with this, now we need to discuss the browser part, right? So we're going to talk about the web browser is basically going to ask the web server to identify itself. So हम यहाँ पे लिखते हैं, the web browser will ask the web server to identify itself. Now, once the web browser asks the web server, so the web server is now going to be providing a digital certificate. The web server provides a digital certificate which then the browser authenticates. So till this point, you're going to be getting like how many marks? So 5 marks. Why? Because we have stated like 5 points. So you get like 1 for this, and you get 1 for this. Then this is 3, so you get 3 for this, and then you get 1 for this, and then you get 1 for this. So 5. And now we can say that the last point could be like if the browser authenticates, if the browser authenticates the certificate, the connection is established. Otherwise, it's not. So if you write that point too, you're going to get 1 extra mark. But because we are done with 6 points, so I'll be stopping up here. But in exam, I would recommend that you should mention the 6.2. See, so the connection is established, and you're good to go. Boom, done. Right. So we're done with this 6 points. Now, this marks the end of this question too. So now, before moving on, I want you guys to let me know in the chat box. Is this clear, or do you guys have any question related to the concept? Quickly in the chat box. If you guys have any questions, you guys can like literally just ask off easy scene. I appreciate questions, by the way, for all those who are new. Perfect, perfect. Walaikum salam, walaikum salam. That's great to know. So now we're done with this. Now we're looking into the paper 13 of the same 2025 summer. So now I hope we find a good question related to chapter 5 up here too, because chapter number 5 is again something which the examiner does test as one of those important questions. So let's see. Nope, nope. No. Yep. So we do have a question up here. Again, you see, it's related to the same DNS server. So a lot of questions are being tested related to DNS. So now this question says that an online company has a website that allows the user to buy products. Okay, makes sense. So like maybe Amazon or maybe Daraz. Okay, and then the user types in the URL for the website, and this is sent to a domain name server. So let's say, for instance, you are gonna go, okay, asymmetric encryption. Yeah, of course. Excellent. So Rayan is saying that can I explain asymmetric encryption? So Inaya did provide a good answer to that. In reality, so basically what happens is that if you want to encrypt some data file, so let's say you have a file up here and maybe you just use a single key to encrypt it, then and like perhaps it's the let me give you guys a better example. So I have a file which is storing the data mass. Okay, and I encrypt this file using a key. Okay, and this becomes something like XY23. Okay, but now the problem is that the same key which was used originally to encrypt it, it is also being used to decrypt it. So, like for instance, if I have to send data from person A to person B, and I let's say I have a file up here which I'm encrypting using a specific key, then person B also has to have the same key to decrypt it, right? Because without this key, this file cannot go back into the original mask format, right? So an encryption algorithm like this, where you have like a single key, that is basically known as symmetric encryption. But now this had a big issue because you had to also transfer the key alongside it, which if the hacker got access to, so then a big problem could be caused. Now what happened was that programmers came up with the concept of asymmetric encryption. Asymmetric encryption basically makes use of two keys. You have the public key and you have the private key. So you might be like, okay, bro, I'm basically going to be creating a pair of keys. So like a software is going to produce a public key and a private key, which are connected with each other. And so like I have a file mask and I'm going to first of all encrypt it using my private key. All right. So private key. And then I won't be sharing my private key. Perhaps I will have like a public key which I can give to any person. So like if I want to send a file to person number B all the way from my PC, so I would not be sending him my private key. Perhaps I will just send him my public key. And then oh, what person B is going to do is okay, sorry, if person B is trying to send data to my PC, okay, so I'm going to be sending my public key to him. Okay, and he's going to encrypt the file and then he's going to send that file to me. And then because the public key which I send to him and the private key which I have on my own, they both are generated from the same software, so I will be using my private key to decrypt it. Now in this case you see that the keys are not being transferred. Say so your person B has my public key, and public key can only be used to encrypt it. It cannot be used to decrypt it. So even if a hacker comes up here and he gets the file and he knows the public key, it won't be of any use because you need the private key which neither B has nor the hacker. So now he's gonna be sending me the file which is encrypted using the public key, but because I have the private key up here on my PC, I will be the only person who can decrypt it. And such encryption, which makes use of public key and private key as like a double sort of security system, that is known as your asymmetric encryption. Is this clear now, Rayan? So person B doesn't have access to private key and he can only encrypt to ciphertext using public key. Yep, bilkul, exactly. So like if like person B wants to send data to me and person B is like, Mars, I want to send some data to you. How should I transfer it? So I will be like, okay, wait, person B, let me send you my public key. You can encrypt the document using that public key and then send me the encrypted document onto my PC. And then I'm going to be receiving the document and I will be decrypting it using my private key. So person B does not have access to the private key at all. So he can only encrypt it. Yep. Abdullah will be saying, sir, then what is its purpose? The purpose is basically to provide more security. So like originally when we were using the symmetric encryption, it was like if I'm using a specific key to encrypt a document, I also have to, okay, what's the purpose of public key? So see, tell me one thing. how will he, if I want person B to send me a data file to, like, if person A, and it's something confidential because I feel like maybe someone might hack me over the root. Now how can I make it secure? One way of making myself secure is by encrypting it. Now to encrypt it, you definitely need a key. So like if I don't provide person B with a specific key or like a public key or any sort of key, how is he going to encrypt or decrypt it? So for that reason, we came up with public key and private key, which was basically a public key will be sent to person B, who is going to use that to basically encrypt the document. And once the document is encrypted, is going to send that document to me, which I can then later on decrypt using my private key. The benefit is that, let's say this public key is available with everyone. So like I can share it with hundreds of people. So like if person B uses my public key, maybe there's a person C up here who also has my public key because it's public key, right? But public key can only be used to encrypt. It cannot be used to decrypt it. So if anybody has my public key, it has no benefit of like there's no edge to that person in a way that he can access my file. No, not that's not possible. But the only thing which can happen is that they encrypt a document and send it back to me, which I can then later on decrypt using my private key. So the sole purpose of public key is to encrypt a document in a way that only the person who is to whom the file is being sent, they can access it. Now is it clear, Abdullah? We have Abdullah. Yep, we do have. All right, perfect. Decryption can only be done by private. Yes, in asymmetric encryption, decryption can only be done by private key because encryption, like encrypting the document, can be done through a public key, but to decrypt it, you need the private key. So yeah, Ryan, you're correct. So now back to the same question. Now we have the first question stating that describe the role of DNS. 2 marks, so expecting 2 points from you. Now you can talk about anything just the way I told you. It like stores a database of URL and matching IP address, and it searches its database for the matching IP address. Say so we can these 2 points, and can also say that sends the URL to another DNS if URL cannot be found. So whatever we discussed earlier on. So we can write the first point as it stores a database of URLs, which is basically Uniform Resource Locator, all these www.google.com and stuff like that. So it stores URLs and matching IP addresses. Matching IP addresses. First point. And then in the second point, I can like write it searches its database for a matching IP address and then returns it. It searches for an IP address, and if found, returns it back to the computer. Returns it back to the computer. And this gives you a perfect 2 marks back to the computer. Done. Now, store address of website and web servers and IP. Can you एक second guys, बहुत ही messages आ गए. No, you should watch. You should take the live class. You can watch Stranger Things later on. That's not important. See, store addresses of website and web server. Send IP address to web server to find. No, Abdullah. See, it stores addresses of websites as well as its corresponding IP addresses. See, and then it searches through that whole column to see whether if there is a specific URL I'm trying to find. Do I have the IP address of that URL? Yes or no? And if it exists, then you need to just return that. Say so. Yep. Okay. All these recordings related to your past paper sessions have been uploaded on the YouTube channel. Apart from that, I have started uploading chapter 7 videos too. But if you want to have the access to the whole course, for that you can either go with a recorded lecture course, or you can opt for our upcoming IGCSE May June official class batch, which will be starting from the coming Monday, so 1st of December, inshallah. And what if a connection is not found between our, then Rayan, just like I told you in the diagram, it's going to go to another DNS. So it's like you look up here in one DNS and it sees that, okay, do I have a possible connection? If no, then I go to DNS2. And if let's say DNS2 finds it, then good, it's returned. But let's say if even DNS2 does not find it, and it's not available in any of the servers around me, then it's going to return an error. So you might have seen sometimes like server not located on the web browser. So if a server is not located, it basically means that your specific what do we call it, DNS server has not been found. Okay, I can share the link, just a minute, man. It's Code Catalyst. You can search it on YouTube too, but I can share the link in the chat box and you guys can have a look at it. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Rayan. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, continuing with the same questions, now we're going to be looking at question number B, which says that a website asks a user to input their username and password to log into their account. And the company wants to make their login system more secure. So it's asking us one, we have to like basically tick one of the boxes to show one other security method that could be added to make the login system more secure. So how can I make it more secure? So I can choose any of these four methods. But see, let's see, access levels. Access level basically is a phenomena where, yeah, Abdullah, you're correct, by the way. But now let's dissect why D is the correct answer. So access level basically means that you have a user login system. So like maybe if there is a specific task which only the seniors can do, so I can say like they should have the senior software access, right? And then let's say I am an administrator, so administrator should not have access to the student files, but however he or she should have access only to the setting files. So when we define these limits that a person logging in can have a range of this, and maybe access level of this, that basically is known as access level. Now, access level is not something which is being implemented up here because definitely they are already implementing a username and a password thingy. So they want to make it more secure. So this is wrong. Then firewall is something which is correct, but it does not apply up here. Why? Because it's saying that you need to make the login system more secure. So if I want to make the login system more secure, it has nothing to do with firewall. Firewall can be used when you have to like maybe download some data externally. Yes, Rehan, bilkul, isi tarah. Then spyware is another software which is just to see whether there is some sort of a software which locates what keys you are pressing. But then again, that is not something which can help you at this point because you need something which ensures that when you're trying to log in, wo aapke even, so like something which ensures that at that moment, at that specific point, it confirms that yes, it is you. So that is on the option number D. So your correct answer is D. Same. Then it says that a company uses a proxy server. So proxy server is one other, what do you call it? It's sort of a mechanism implemented by computer programs, which ensures that you have an intermediate server between the internet and between your computer. And so if, for instance, there is some sort of DDoS, which is exactly DDoS attack means like, what if I send you like 1,000 spam requests, which can block up your server? So that specific server takes up all those damages. So it's like a bulletproof jacket in front of your computer on which all these bullets are going to come up, but it's going to secure your computer at the back. So it's going to filter the request as stated by Abdullah. Perfect. So now it's telling us that you need to basically complete an annotated diagram to show how the DDoS attack is carried out on the web server. So it's also stating annotate, which basically means we need to sort of also write a few words to explain what's happening around. So we basically, it happens in a way that you have some third party source up here. So we're going to make a box like this, third party. So it can be any third party, say whatever source, which is basically ensuring that all these files are going to be implemented, right? So the one whole source which is going to attack your computer. And then this is going to go to a specific, you can say a set of computers where specific bots will be introduced and those will be set up to all. So like in simple words, you can say like there is a third party, a group of friends, and they have implemented like 100 bots on different computers and they all send a request to the same web server at once. So this is what we call as a DDoS attack. So now to implement that bot kind of thingy, you can make a straight box like this. Okay. I don't have a ruler with me though, so ignore my bad drawing at this point, but chalo, like this. And then you can make like bot number 1, you can make bot number 2. You just need to indicate that there are multiple bots being used. So bot number 3, and finally you have the bot number 4. And now how are these connected? So you basically say that all of them are connected to the third party. So it's like the third party who is going to be telling them, okay, you need to do this. So we make these arrows like this. Done. Perfect, right? And now all of these bots are going to be attacking your web server. So it's going to attack this. This is also going to send the request up here. This is also going to send a request up here, and this too. So when multiple requests are sent to a web server, it's going to ensure that that specific web server gets under pressure. And when it gets under pressure and it is not able to accommodate a lot of users, then in that scenario, it's going to what do we call it? Create a problem. Microsoft Edge is not available on Mac, by the way. If I'm not wrong, I guess it's not available. It's Edge on Mac OS. Okay, it is available. I'm not sure. Okay, but still, I would prefer Google Chrome. Do these free sessions are only going till this Sunday, and so like from the 1st of December, we're going to be launching our official course for the May June 2026 series, and those will only be for the registered kiddos. But the first week will be a free demo open to everyone, so anyone who is willing to join, they can join in, and the link for that will be shared in the same WhatsApp group in the community which you all are added in. And if you plan on joining, which I would 100% recommend if you're appearing in any of your upcoming IGCSE exams, if you're aiming for like an A star or a distinction in CS. So we're going to be having a super comprehensive course together, inshallah, and we will ensure that you're fully prepared to ace that exam. See, so now we're not done, right? We need to now explain it. So yes, so I've explained what does the third party do. So you're going to write up here the third party sends malware, sends malware. Done. And then we need to explain, okay, like what is the bot thing you're doing. So you say that malware turns computer into bot. Say so malware turn turns computer turn computers turn computers. Okay, it's like turn malware turn computers into bot, which basically means that if you have hundreds of computers, all of those specific computers are going to be converted into a bot which performs a specific task of spamming a web server, right? So you're going to talk about that, and then you're going to say that the web server cannot handle all the requests and it crashes. So web server cannot handle all the requests and it crashes. And this marks a perfect 5 on 5. Done. So now in the next part, it says that you need to identify two tasks that can be performed by a proxy server that are not performed via a firewall. So you see that the question states that, okay, Brianna said the third party adds malware into their own computers to turn them into bots. Well, that depends. It can work that way too, where basically they can add malware into their own computer, or it can also be possible that your computer is being infected by a malware through some third party company. So like maybe a third party company adds a malware to your laptop, which you might not even be aware of. And then your laptop is also sending the request to that specific server. So it's possible either way. And that's one reason that if, for instance, your computer web servers sometimes get slow, you should try to see if you have a specific virus on your computer, because there is a possibility that it is them who is trying to crash those web servers and prevent you from accessing a specific website. So now this part says that you need to identify two differences. So important point here is that when you're preparing for the exams, do ensure that you know these differences, because examiner loves testing such concepts. What is the difference between this and that? What is the difference between that, and so on. See, now we need to talk about two differences. So the first one is that you are basically public proxy server, they can hide a public IP address, and second one is that and then the second one is that it can basically do caching. So caching basically means that if there is some website which is frequently being accessed by your computer, so like for instance, aapne dekha hoga, sometimes you want to access a website every day, so it's immediately loads up if you're accessing it daily, right? Why? Because the proxy server understands that this website is something which the user tries to access every day. So they bring up their address and store it in a temporary, faster sort of smaller memory, which we call as cache memory. So the one benefit of proxy servers is that when you implement that cache memory complex system, it allows you to quickly access a specific website. So we can say that one of the benefit is basically caching. See, it's caching. Caching. So Priyan say proxy server hides your IP, your website data like passwords and history. No, 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 no. Proxy server basically is intermediate. So like this, if this is your PC, this is your proxy server, and this is the server, web, okay, internet. So www. So if someone tries to hack your computer or send some spam request, they're gonna attack this server. Say this server, just like this. And if, for instance, this crashes, even if this crashes, it does not allow all this malware or whatever stuff it is to enter your computer. Say, so it prevents this stuff which were intended to go into your computer, but it prevents them from going into your computer because it is there as a temporary barrier, and it stays there, and it tells the other person that stop, you cannot cross this boundary. So even if anything crashes, it's only your so what do we call it, proxy server, and so your computer is safe from any sort of viruses or any sort of malware trojan. Say, so जो आपके बाकी चीजें like related to your IP addresses or maybe like your web history, passwords and stuff, those are things which are protected by your browser, so it has nothing to do with your proxy server. The second point is that basically when you're making use of a proxy server, it has this one other feature that it can hide a public IP address. Say hide a public IP address. This is one other reason why I would recommend that you guys should always go and read the syllabus, because in your what do we call it, in your book there might not be a point like this stated clearly or straightforward. So it's always recommended that for whatever science exam or whatever exam you're appearing in, whether that's your O level, IGCSE or A levels, in any time future, whenever you have completed your preparation, do ensure that you go through the syllabus. And it's really important. I did share a proper reel on this through my Instagram page too. So let me share my Instagram page up here too, so if you are new, you guys can follow that too, and we share some useful tips there. Say, so Rayan is saying, what about the progress on a website? Is it done by cache? Uh, it's not like the progress. It's more or less, you can say that, for instance, if there is a specific URL, say a URL, and then I have an IP, and send like let's say google.com, and the IP to this is blah 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 blah. But the time to go to the DNS and access this is like 5 seconds. Now what I can do is that I can copy this data and store it in my cache memory. So this goes into my cache memory where I can basically access the whole thing in 2 seconds. So you see that I am still going and accessing the data, but rather than spending 5 seconds, I'm like taking like 2 seconds. So other than that, this data, which like the progress thing which you mentioned, those are things which are dealt by the cookies. Cookies is also some concept which is again used in the same. Oh, by the way, the next part is also about cookies, so we're going to discuss the cookies part there too. So cookies is basically going to be storing the progress, so like maybe your preferences, maybe your saved passwords or something of that sort. Saifullah, get that Asan, and I'm going to get you crumbled, don't worry. Say, so continuing with part D, it now says that the company uses cookies to allow user to keep items in a shopping cart, which is like the same thing which Rayan just said, progress. See? So whatever progress you are making on a specific website. And now the item remains in the cart after the user closes their web browser, which is again one another point that it is permanent. It's not temporary. So now we need to say that what type of cookies are these. So remember, these permanent cookies, which are even there when you turn off your browser, those are basically known as persistent cookies. There are no dynamic cookie or static cookie. And then we have the session cookie as the one which is basically your temporary cookie. So the moment you turn off your web browser, it's going to get deleted, otherwise it's going to stay up there. And then it is saying that gives 3 other ways that the company can use cookies. So one of them is to store items in the shopping cart. Apart from that, you can use cookies to store users login detail. So store users login detail, which basically means that if you have seen, sometimes you save your password and it remains within the website login page. That's basically a cookie, right? Rayan is saying track customer habits. Perfect. But you should be writing the examiner's wording, say, which the examiner expects. So you should say it stores users preferences or used for targeted advertising. Say, so you can say used for targeted advertising, advertising. समझ गए? And then the third point can be anything, like it can store user payment detail or maybe stores user preferences, stores user preferences. and you're gonna get a perfect 3 by 3. समझ गए? So Rayan, if you even write track customer habits, that's going to be a valid point. But I always recommend that you go with the one which the examiner expects. Eh? So the more examiner terminology you're gonna make use in your exam, the better the chances are that you don't lose marks. Eh? So try to implement as similar writing style as possible to the marking scheme. Say so once you start practicing topicals, even though if your point is valid, try to memorize how the examiner is asking us to write the answers. समझ गए? Continuing, part 3 says that okay, cookies are stored by a web browser, and now we need to talk about two other functions of web browser. Now you tell me what are web browsers used for. So like one of you just stated that where can the history be viewed? So it's always on your web browser, right? So you go to your Chrome and you see that the history is being recorded. So you can say it records user history. So recording users history, this is one point. Apart from that, you can use your web browser to maybe like store bookmarks, maybe use multiple tabs, navigate here and there, provides an like address bar. But like let's go with the easy one. It can like it stores bookmarks, stores bookmarks. I hope you guys are aware of bookmarks. So bookmarks are basically when you open up your web browser and you have this specific place where you can enter the address, and beneath this you can see that there might be this one section where multiple saved thingies are available. So you can just like go through them too, and that are basically known as web क्या बोलूं, browser नहीं, those are known as like bookmarks. So Abdullah, the point which you said that it's store cookies, that has already been stated in the exam question. So it's already stated up here that cookies are stored by web browser, and then it says you need to give two other functions apart from that. So you won't be getting marked if you just write that it's store cookies. So we are done with this question too. Now before moving on, is this clear or do you have any sort of questions? All good? And should we continue? All right. Perfect. So let's go on to paper number 11 now. So yes, so it's 9:42. We do have enough time. Inshallah, we can do like two more questions, hopefully. So now let's find a question up here related to chapter number 5. Nope, 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 nope. Okay, we have a good question up here. But again, this encryption part is something which is from chapter number 2, but I missed chapter number 2 encryption part in like chapter number 2, so I did discuss it today in chapter number 5 because it's something related to security. But in reality, the concept is being taught in chapter number 2, so we won't be doing any more asymmetric or symmetric questions. So going on. Okay, so yep, up here. So this question number 9, part B, is a concept which is dealing with how a hacker accesses your computer, and then how can you ensure that you are being protected from it. So one method of how the computer can be hacked is through a brute force attack. So now it is saying the question states that a finance company is concerned that a hacker may perform a brute force attack to gain access to an employee's account. And now it's telling us how does the hacker perform a brute force attack. So a hacker performs a brute force attack in a way that it tries to guess a password. So like if I say that a person can enter a 4-digit code, I can like test all the possible combos. So I might like, yes, perfect, Ran. So like I might use all the possible combos out there. I can repeatedly do it. Or to be honest, for these, we have multiple sort of softwares which can literally you just press the enter button and it tries all the possible combo. And this is one reason why on your devices, mobile devices, or any sort of phones, you might have seen that when you incorrectly enter a password like maybe 5 times, it gives you a 1 minute timer. Then it goes to like 10 minutes. It can go for 1 hour, and it can extend until it permanently, not permanently, but it sort of blocks up. So this method is basically known as brute force attack. So we're going to be talking about that up here. So firstly, it tries to find out um, the password by repeatedly entering different combination. It tries to find out the password by repeatedly entering different combination. combinations. You get 2 marks till here. See, and now we can also state the third point that you could software could be used to do it automatically. A software could be used to do it automatically. And this gives you a very perfect answer to this question. समझ गए? Continuing with part 2, it now says that give 3 cybersecurity solutions that can be used to prevent a brute force attack from being successful. So how can you make sure that you are secure? Firstly, definitely is trying to guess passwords. So you should use stronger passwords. Secondly, it will be like you can implement a two-step verification that even if he gets the password, maybe a mail goes to your account and you need to enter that passcode which has been delivered on your email. And then maybe third can be also biometric passwords, so like maybe fingerprint or face scan or something like that. So we can go with the first one as strong passwords. Strong passwords. The second one can be like two-step verification. And then the last one can be what was the last one? Strong password, two-step verification, and biometric password. See, so biometric password. Again, easy 3 marks. So you see, you're just getting marks for easy stuff. Yeah, this is the security question. Do you have a question related to the factorials? By the way, if there is a specific method, that's something which you should not be aware of. Say, so how does he crack that, or if he makes use of a specific factorial or something, that is not something which you should be aware of. Yeah. So, was there any question, Ryan? Yeah. What? I do not get what you try to mention by security question. All right, perfect, perfect, perfect. So now part C is basically saying that your company is using a digital currency to purchase a new car. What is meant by digital currency? By the sort of currency that exists only electronically or virtually is known as digital currency. So like any sort of digital verified currency is basically known as digital currency. A currency that exists only electronically. A currency that exists only electronically. Say, and there we go. Now the B part says that a digital currency uses a process that involves a digital ledger, and the ledger has timestamp transaction that cannot be altered. This is basically exactly talking about your blockchain technology whole process. So you just need to name the process. So the answer to this is blockchain. And this whole thing is basically explaining blockchaining, how it has like a digital ledger which ensures this and that and that and and you continue the whole process. And this marks the end of this question too. This was a pretty good question because it tested some new concepts. So is this clear, or do you guys have any questions related to this? Rayan Abdullah, is it clear? Perfect. So it's 9:48. We do have time to do one last question. So chalo kar lete hain. Summer 24. Let's see if we find a good question up here. Short सा हो तो बेहतर होगा. Mm, mhm. Symmetric. Okay. Nope. Nope. Nah. No. Okay, we did get one question, but I guess this is pretty long. Nee, nee, sahi hai, sahi hai, sahi hai. Now, this is basically talking about firewall. Sahi hai. So it's telling you that, okay, what is a firewall? What does it do? And how does it work and all that stuff. So a company owner also installs a firewall to help protect the network from hackers and malware. And we need to explain how does it work. So we have 5 marks for this question, which means we need to state 5 points. So the first point can be definitely a firewall. First of all, sets a criteria. So we can say a criteria can be set up for the traffic, for the incoming traffic, yeah, but for the traffic ka lo, because traffic can go out from the computer, so like any data going from your computer and can also come to your computer. So if I say incoming, it's only coming in, but it also, firewall also works for the data going out, so it's going to be using the word traffic, say. And then it can be said like what type of criteria, so like maybe such as some sort of blacklist or whitelist of IP address, such as blacklist slash whitelist for IP addresses. You get 2 points for writing this. Now you need to say that basically your firewall, it examines the traffic coming into the network, and it checks whether it meets the set criteria, and if it does, it allows it, and if it does not, it's not allowed and it is rejected. Say, so I'm bowling it, it will examine the traffic, it will examine the traffic entering the computer, entering the computer. It will examine the traffic entering the, and will check it against the set rule. The set rules. If it meets the criteria, the traffic is allowed to enter the computer, allowed, allowed to enter the computer. Otherwise, it's rejected, right? So otherwise it's rejected. Oh man, I hate writing these long question answers. And otherwise it's rejected, and if it's rejected, then what? It does not enter the computer. Straightforward. Yeah, so then iske bagair ye bol sakte ki like you're gonna get like 1 2 3 4 5, so you get like perfect 5 for this, and this marks the end of the question. But then you can also talk about how like maybe while using what do we call it, firewalls, there are some certain ports which can be used by hackers, so that they can, like certain ports used by hackers can be blocked. So I can say that if there is a specific port which I know, through which the hacker is trying to access your computer, we can block those specific points too, so that the hacker can no longer access our computer. So I would recommend going with paragraph answers. I saw it somewhere in the, if I'm not wrong, in your examiner report, where it was clearly sort of mentioned that the examiner expects, not like expects, it's like the examiner appreciates if you can क्या कहते हैं, what do we call it, mention the answer in a paragraph form rather than writing it in bullet points. Say, so I would recommend, even if you are unable to construct a proper paragraph, you can go like firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly, and that's how I would recommend. It's really neat that way. समझ गए? So now part B basically says that you need to give 2 other examples of malware that the firewall can help protect the network from. So you can write any of the malware types. You have like 6 7 in the book, so like virus, worm, trojan horse, spyware, adware, ransomware. So let's go with any 2. So I can go like virus and ransomware, and this gets you 2 by 2 2. So with that, we are done with today's class. Is this 100% clear, or do you guys have any questions related to the concept? What time is it? Firewall is a little bit confusing. Okay, okay, I can explain that. Just a minute. All right, so your firewall is basically, you can say that if this is my computer, say this is the World Wide Web, definitely I will be downloading some game onto my computer, and that game might bring some extended traffic or maybe any sort of malware alongside it. So as a security guard, what I do is that I create a wall up here. Okay, this wall is known as firewall. And now this firewall has some specific rules, so it sets some criteria. It's like, okay, I can only allow data which is like maybe from this website. I'm only going to allow data which might only follow this protocol. I might only allow data which is like this. I'm going to look at this certificate, stuff like that. And if it is all validated, then you can enter my computer because you are a safe file. But if it's like something, okay, why is there lots of traffic coming alongside it, this is something risky, so I will not allow it. So your data, even if like a Trojan or anything comes up here, it can no longer enter and it has to go back. This is basically one feature which your firewall does. Okay, like it allows your computer to basically be protected. And uske andar ye ho raha hai ki you have to set up a criteria, and then after that it's basically the computer firewall is basically working as a security guard. It is basically ensuring that if incoming file meets the specific criteria, then it allows it to enter your PC, and if it does not, then it does not allow your computer to, what do we call it, you can say, it does not allow the file to enter your computer. And apart from that, your firewall has some other features that, what if I say that I want to access a specific website, but that website, perhaps I want to block a specific website that I should not be accessing at all. So you can block specific web servers. You can tell it that, okay, remove this web server. So now if I'm sending some data up here, it's going to check whether, okay, this data is being sent to web server of this is in the block IP addresses. So even this file would not be allowed. So it's basically your security guard. It's ensuring that you are safe. This is like a simple model of what basically your firewall is. इसको ज़्यादा complicate करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. It's just like acting like a mini security guard for your computer. अब firewall and proxy server में ये फर्क है, it's sort of bit similar, but proxy server is in terms of like a server, it's like a whole server. Firewall is something which is there on your computer. So like it's either software based or hardware based, but it is there to only protect the data. So like you can also say that if something goes through the proxy server, then it also goes through your firewall. So like it first comes up here through your proxy server, and like a proxy server se aage, then it goes to your firewall. Now is it clear, Rayan? Nahi samajh aayi to just let me know. I can like literally re-explain it. All right, perfect. That's great to know. All right, so if you guys have any other question, you can ask. Otherwise, we can end the class. No worries, man. No worries. No worries. Let me end the record.